Hello everybody. Me and Ken have just recorded a song and now we're going to have a little chat for 10 minutes or so. I've known you a long time, Ken, right back to when I was probably about 20, I think. But what got you into folk music? Are you interested in folk music?
I was skint and I couldn't turn out one Saturday night. I would only be about 16 and the Oldham Tinkers were at the Lineker Theatre in Wigan. And my mum and dad said, are you not going out? I said, no, I'm skint. I said, well, you can come with us. Anyway, reluctantly, I went along. And I saw these guys, three guys with a mandolin, a banjo and a guitar. And they were singing songs exactly the way I talked. I thought, by heck, this is for me. So my dad bought the album, Oudham Edge, on the night.
Oh, yeah.
And then as soon as I turned 17 and I could get past Mrs. Brown and up into the Wigan Folk Club, I was going there. So it was like Wigan Folk Club on a Wednesday.
That Park Hotel?
That's the Park Hotel, long lamented. And then Saturday night it was up the casino, dancing around the handbags to soul music and
Northern Soul.
So that
that's an unusual combination, to Northern Soul and folk music. But it's funny that because my wife Melanie used to go to Northern Soul. She loves Tamla Motown and soul music and Northern Soul, and I'm more folk. So and she doesn't like what I like very much, and I don't like what she likes very much. But anyway, apart from that, but it's a combination. It's funny how Wigan is essential for both those things.
Yeah, well, in those days it was Motown and Stax the soul music. Northern Soul only started in about 75.
Oh right.
And that was basically a dance beat, but the true soul music I think is like the bluesy side of the Chess label, the Stax label and the Motown label.
Right.
Anyway, to get back to that, I watched the Tinkers and started going to Wigan Folk Club, and I saw super turns like Alex Campbell and Mike Harding, a young lad making his way.
Mike Harding,
I saw a young lady called Marie Little.
Yeah, still going.
Get a couple of quid for a spot at the Wigan Folk Club. Salford girl.
Yeah.
And that set me on the road. And then I saw you lot up at the Old Triangle.
That's right.
Orwell Rugby Union Club.
Yeah.
And then a little bit later on, my mate was John Oliver. Norman split from the Triangle and formed the Orton Weavers, and he asked John, so...
He did.
He
asked John Oliver and Tony, and they wanted a guitarist, so they asked David Littler. And within a couple of years, they were on Flaming Telly, they went from nothing to that.
So... And that was my youth, and I was playing for Aspel Rugby Union Club, and they wanted a fundraising idea, so I started a folk club there, or a monthly folk concert it was. Yeah. And it had Gary and Viva and Pat and the Old Triangle you'd left then.
Was that in the big room, a bigger room? Or
yeah, well, it was a Aspel Rugby Union's club room.
Yes.
And we had some great times there. Yeah. Mike Canavan, he died a couple of years ago. He played for us there, and Gary and Vera, Bernard Wrigley.
Well, they've all been in my kitchen then.
Exactly.
So, what I wanted to specifically ask you about, we could talk all day about all sorts of things. I mean, we go back a long time, and I've not with John Oliver. I was friends with John as well. But I know you've got I came to watch you last Sunday. You did a presentation at Hay Hall about the price of coal, which I found fascinating, both in terms of the content of it and the way you presented it, with interspersed with songs and music and poetry. But I learned so much about the detail of the injustices that went on at that time. Can you just tell us a little bit about how you got into that?
Yeah, my favourite subject at school was history.
Yeah.
And when I got into the folk music and the historical songs from Harry Boardman and the Tinkers, they said that history is controlled and written by the winners, They controlled the narrative.
Yeah.
And the winners were the industrialists.
Yeah.
And superb technical inventions, but underlying is the misery that it caused with child labour, industrial diseases, deaths from bad practices, and it all linked the history, the folk, the dialect poetry of Edwin Waugh and
Of course, yeah.
you know, Sam Laycock and Ben Briley, and it was just like fermenting all these things, I got the idea of putting the history of the mills and the pits, and but alongside that, the history of the people and how they suffered, and the songs what they sang and the poems what they wrote, and including them in a talk.
But it was very effective, and I think as well the folk songs in them days, well, all the time really. I know we've got all modern technology now, but folk songs in them days were a way of spreading information around and spreading stories around about what was going on. And so, you know, to bring them into it, I think is...
And it was information, because there was a lot of illiteracy. I mean, people were lucky to get school till they were 7. You know, and the songs, a dialect song is a good way of putting information across to people. That's why the folk music, it can be very political.
Well, yeah.
It's a way of spreading the message to the people who can't read about it.
And what I thought a little fascinating part of your presentation was when Queen Victoria got involved.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not howling screaming royalist by a long shot, but Queen Victoria heard about the Husker cholera flood when a stream overflowed, went down a ventilation shaft, and it drowned 26 kids. There was 9 lads and 15 lads and 9 girls. And also, one of the worst things to happen in 1815 to the working class people of Britain was the Corn Laws.
Yeah.
They were imposed after Waterloo in the recession, and they just benefited landowners and caused poverty in Britain and Ireland, and you know, malnutrition really in some cases. Peterloo, the Peterloo protest was about the Corn Laws and political reform, and it was only Queen Victoria's intervention and more or less pushing Sir Robert Peel to repeal the Corn Laws, which got rid of them, and that also got rid of Robert Peel because his political allies turned on him because they were losing all that money from
I know tariffs. She was a very...
So she wasn't a bad egg lass. I think the tragic loss of her husband stopped the good she was doing because she went into a long period of mourning.
Yeah, clear. Now, as I said, we could talk forever on this, but I just wanted to talk about, because you've sort of brought together history, local history, which we know about in Wigan, mine in particular, things about the Industrial Revolution with folk music. You've also written several historical novels, haven't you?
Yeah.
And I know I've read a couple of them, but I know Tony's read them all. I know Tony was singing your praises about. But can you just talk briefly about those? Brigant, The Way of the Warrior. What's that all about?
Right, that's about the. Well, we know Wigan was significant because they found a big bathhouse in Millgate when they were doing the Grand Arcade.
Yes.
And there was all sorts of other things, a burial ground when the gasworks were excavated, and the Roman road from Carlisle to Roxeter, that goes straight through Wigan.
That's all right.
Yes. It's now follows the course of the A49.
Yes.
The A49 follows that course up to Preston, and then it's now the A6. But that was basically the main Roman road on the northwest. And I just thought that road, every army was travelled north towards Scotland on the northwest, or from Scotland down, has gone through Wigan, Warrington and Preston. So
That's fascinating.
Everything what happened in history on this and actual events, I've just created my own characters.
And
tell-
so you've told
to tell the
a
story.
story, but
Yeah.
using factual information.
Yeah.
Really. Now, the Exodus of the Vikings, is that along similar lines?
Yeah, because the Irish clans rose up and attacked Dublin and forced the Vikings out. That was the main slave port for the Vikings, where they put the slaves. You know, they caught the slaves in Britain.
Yeah.
You know, and then they were held at Dublin, and then they were sent down then and traded for gold in the North African coast.
Yeah.
And they were attacked by one of the first times the Irish clans got together, and they had to get into the boats and leave pretty smartish, and they landed on the Wirral and Liverpool Bay.
Right. So that's what that story is about.
So and that's based on that.
So that's a change. White slaves being sold to Africa. That's an unusual thing. The Well of Lost Souls.
That's a bit of a Dickensian. It's a well-to-do young lady. Her fiance is killed in an insurrection in Canada, and that's based in the leafy lanes of Cheshire. And
Yeah, I've read this book.
you know, she's discovers she's pregnant, and to avoid the shame, she heads off for Manchester. Things go wrong for her, and she ends up in a workhouse. And the child is born, she dies, and when the child's old enough, is sold to the mills of Wigan. And,
It's a
and
great
that's how
book.
the story develops.
It's a belting book. I've read this book. Now, we're running out of time now, so what I want to say to everybody who's interested in maybe reading these books, if you go onto the internet and key in Kenneth J. Scally, you'll find them. So, we'll leave it at that, shall we, for today?
And thanks very much, Jim.
Hey, I'll see you. We're having a pasty now and a custard. And we'll see you
Just had a
soon.
brew. Catch you home at Jim's.